Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. A legendary guitar has come and gone to the auction block. This is the Wayne's World Excalibur 1964 Stratocaster. When a fan of the show sent this in to me that this thing was coming up for auction, I about fell out of my seat. The original Excalibur coming up to auction? Yes, please. That would make a fantastic review and demo. This is the guitar that sparked everything as far as the memes coming out of that movie. You were not allowed to play Stairway to Heaven on this guitar. You had to live in the now and accept that you could never afford it. However, with this auction, it did give you the chance to ask the sellers if they accept cash. Or at least that's what I thought when I first saw this. And then I was immediately disappointed when I learned, oh, this is the Wayne's World 2 Stratocaster. But that does bring up some interesting topics that we can talk about today, like what is this one worth, what is the original one worth, and a few other things that you might not have known about the original Excalibur. Okay, so this was auctioned off very recently, Tuesday, June 29th, so about a week ago. And it was estimated to sell between $15,000 to $20,000. Okay. And it was part of like an entire Wayne's World 2 collection here. So you had the guitar that he was using in the movie, and it looks like an outfit or two, and a production crew parking pass. So I'd say the guitar was definitely the best thing out of this whole auction. But before we dive too far into this, let's just take a look at the guitar. So this is the one he used throughout the second movie. But what I'm most curious about is, what even is this? Is it a 1964 Fender Stratocaster? I guess we'll just have to look and find out. The pickup covers have definitely aged on this thing, especially that tone knob. It's like mysteriously more aged than these. It's like those might have been replaced at one point in time because the switch tip matches that. But according to the listing, there's a 1992 manual from Fender in here, so that means it's likely an early 90s reissue Stratocaster meant to look like it. They didn't want to buy a vintage original for the movie. And I'm somewhat familiar with Fender Stratocasters based off of their new offerings, but as far as telling you what era this came from just by looking at it like I can with Gibsons, yeah, that's not my strong suit here. But seemingly it is in good condition for being used in a movie. And it includes this red interior case. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like we have any close-ups of the serial numbers or anything like that to help us further ID it. But anyways, it's a guitar that was used in a movie. Maybe not as popular as the first Wayne's World, but part of a legacy nonetheless. So it was estimated to sell between $15,000 and $20,000. And it did sell, so that means it either hit that or went above it. But unfortunately, I'm not seeing anywhere where they advertise, yes, this sold for X amount. So that's a little bit of a letdown, but that's just the way that this prop store sells stuff. I guess that helps the person who bought it if they ever want to sell it by keeping that private. Either that or it's just hidden somewhere else. So that was kind of a cool current event, but that got me thinking, how much would the original Wayne's World Stratocaster go for? And where in the world is it? So I did some research, and apparently at one point in time at Planet Hollywood in Disney World, they displayed a guitar that they said was the original in the movie and was all signed. But if you look at it, you can tell that's not the same one. The easiest telltale sign to know that it's not a USA-made Fender or a vintage one is just looking right there at the truss rod adjustment location. Whenever you see a black plastic in this area, that's when you can tell that it's not a USA-made Fender. And that's what it looks like to me from these photos. Because here you can see the original one in the movie doesn't have that at all because it adjusts at the base of the neck. I came up short on where it's actually located now, but I did find an old Reverb article about how much it would be worth on today's vintage market as like a 1964 Stratocaster. Now, the market's changed a whole bunch in nearly 5 years. We're almost coming up on the 30th anniversary of the original Wayne's World. So this article's estimate of $16,000 to $22,000 may or may not be accurate anymore. But let's see what we can find today. Hey, I'd say right away, that's not too bad. $19,500, that looks very close. Apparently previously owned by Joe Bonamassa. He probably traded it so he could get a burst or something. Olympic white, yeah, that is nice. You've got some arm wear right here, the mint green pick guard, lots of finish checking. Like if you really zoom in here, wow, that is a truly beautiful guitar, but it was certainly played. I wonder if Bonamassa does that for all of his guitars. It's labeled Nerdville. That's what he calls his like big guitar collection. He's got 2 whole locations dedicated to it that the public knows about anyways. But the reason why the price is so attractive on this one is it's had a proper refinish, and then it's probably likely been aged. So, you know, I guess now that you look at it underneath the pickguard, that does look a bit cheesy. But that wasn't too bad for a relic job. But as far as recently sold ones, it looks like there's another one right here. Probably refinished would be my guess. Can you not find vintage original ones? They must be pretty rare. Yep, this one's a pro refin. I think people just go for the refins on these because then you can make an affordable version of the Wayne's World guitar. If there was a vintage Stratocaster that I would want to do, it would probably be that. And yep, this one's also been refinished. So that tells me if refinished ones are selling between like 10 to 14,000, an original must be worth at least double that, right? So like 20 to 25 would be a slightly educated guess. Like I'm not going too far deep into this one because I don't really participate in this market too often. And to make sense out of this transaction history, you really need to, you know, actually be able to see that listing. Like, was this one refinished? Was this perfect, or was it also a refinish? I mean, you can make some educated guesses and you can consult the vintage price guide, but I always like to see actual recent sales when doing appraisals or trying to figure out how much a guitar is worth. But let's say you can't afford a vintage original, you can't afford a reissue that'd probably be around $2,000 to $3,000 on the used market, and you want something official from Wayne's World. Did you know there was actually an official run of Excaliburs by Squier? I've always wanted to talk about these, but they just never, you know, naturally came up until today. So yeah, in the very early 90s, Fender did a Squier run of made in Japan Wayne's World signature Stratocasters. They did the whole Olympic white finish with triple single coil pickups with a whammy bar. They even took the buzz out of the low E, filed the nut down, and raised the bridge. Nah, just kidding about that. I don't know if they did all that work to it, but they at least made something available for people. But how is it branded for Wayne's World? Is it on the headstock? No, it's just Squier Stratocaster, made in Japan. Back in the days when they still put by Fender right there as well. It's just on the neck plate, kind of similar to what they do on some limited edition guitars today. It's nice, but I guess at the same time you could have that custom made and put it on, you know, any Squier that just happens to be the same color. But it's kind of a cool collector's item if you're brand new into the guitar collecting scene and you want something that's, you know, relatively affordable. I mean, it depends how much disposable income you have. I mean, this one sold around the ballpark of $850. The most recent sale is $650, $400. So it seems if you can pick it up between, like, I would say at most $500 if you're looking for like an investment that you can buy the guitar and it'll likely hold and or slightly increase in value. I think that would be all right. Because who wouldn't want a part of Wayne's World history? And I've got to say, despite being Squiers, I mean, there are some really good Squiers out there. Like, check out the Antigua Baritone review I did. These ones are so ridiculously expensive, yet today they fetch almost $1,000 and they're really not even that old. But that's more so due to them being baritones, and there's a lot of well-known people that have been using them. That's been what's driving the price up. The Paranormal series, it was kind of cool. I like this Stratocaster, and this offset telly was nice. But even these guys, I think I called it in this video that I thought they would start inflating in prices. People are asking more than brand new on them as well. Pretty much anything baritone and Squier equals, as soon as it's out of production, it's going to be ridiculously expensive. So if you think it's crazy to pay, you know, $500, $600 for a Squier, trust me, there are collectible Squiers out there. And this is one of those cooler ones that I think people will appreciate. But just looking at it, being made in Japan, those are usually fantastic guitars, even yet today. And I love the way that this thing's just kind of naturally aged. I don't think it left the factory like that. But I guess that is the next question that we should try to figure out. If these are selling, you know, $400 to $600 today, what were they brand new? According to Squier Wiki, they were $300, which sounds right to me. That's what I remember researching this a couple of years ago. But these were only around for 1 year, and the fact that they were so limited in production is fantastic for future values. In fact, I'm surprised that Fender doesn't try to capitalize on this and like make an actual custom shop version. But that's cool to see an old advertisement right here. But as far as our specs, it was a basswood body, so that wouldn't be accurate to a 64. You at least have the maple neck, 21 frets on this one, vintage style 7¼ inch radius, rosewood fretboard. Okay, that's nice. I mean, it's not Brazilian, but it's rosewood. Typical scale length, all the good stuff down here. That might have just seemed like a big cash grab back then, but hey, if you bought it, it was a decent investment, because even if you adjust for inflation, sometimes they do sell for more than that. Not much more. You would have been way better off in an index fund or something. But it's nice to know you can enjoy something and it holds value. Let's see you play Stairway to Heaven on Microsoft stock. But wait, there's more. If you didn't want just the original Wayne's World Stratocaster, or you want to complete the set, for the second movie, they also did a Made in Mexico version. Now these ones, just looking at this anyways, they seem to be slightly less desirable. Instead of that basswood body, they switched over to a poplar material. Still the maple neck, but they were around $400 brand new. But they've got the color about the same. You can see what we're talking about up here again. But for me, I love an aged looking neck on one of these things. Whenever it's like a natural color, I don't like it unless it's got some ambered hint to it. This one actually looks pretty good. Now, if I was going to pick one, I would probably go for the original one made in Japan. I mean, the Mexican-made Fenders, they're pretty good too, but this one was made in men. No. That's funny. It must be a ding that just broke the decal up a little bit. Made in men, period. Well, there's only one song you could play on this one. But besides the body, wood, and country manufacturer, basically you just get a new neck plate that says Wayne's World 2. So I guess now that I think about it, now that we've learned about all the options that I know about anyways, feel free to let me know if there was ever a custom shop version done. At least this particular guitar was replicated into a second run, so I guess that kind of makes sense how, even if this was just a 1992 reissue, how it could sell for way more than it would normally do. I get that it was a movie prop, but it did not see anywhere near as much screen time in the second movie as the first. So troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed learning about these with me today. I think I need to go watch Wayne's World again because I don't think I've watched it now that I understand and love guitars. This is just one of those childhood movies where I probably didn't fully understand it. So I'm off to do that, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.